All right, y'all. So we have some absolutely colossal economic news that went a little bit under the radar, and I don't think people truly understand just how bad this is and what this is a sign of moving forward. So let's start here. The European Commission is considering a full shutdown of the EU market to American goods. Ladies and gentlemen, do you understand what that means? That the EU, the whole European Union, that's a lot of countries. They're going, yeah, we might shut down our market completely to all American goods. So no more exports from America being imported into the EU. That would be an economic nightmare. I can't even adequately explain to you how much that would torch the American economy. I can't even explain it, but it gets worse. Ready? China, Japan, and South Korea will jointly respond to U.S. tariffs, Chinese state media says. We are now uniting countries that were historically enemies. China and Japan, there's a lot of bad blood between those countries, dog. Imperial Japan did unspeakable things to China. Now China, Japan, and South Korea. By the way, Japan is one of our fucking top allies. South Korea is one of our top allies. China, we trade with and everything. Obviously, it's sort of like a frenemy situation, a little more leaning on the enemy side. But so two of these are huge allies of ours. And now they're saying, we all made a pact. So if you tariff us, we are standing up and we're responding together. We'll tariff your ass back. Here's what people need to understand about the economic situation that we're currently in. We've never seen anything like this in our lifetimes in modern American history. The one thing about America that's held the country together with duct tape and bubblegum is the low price of consumer goods, right? So there's been massive inflation in this country in housing. You can't fucking buy a house. Nobody can afford a house. Healthcare, education. On these fronts, like these basics of living, massive inflation, skyrocketing inflation. But because of our trade policies, we effectively have had low prices for consumer goods. So you go to Walmart, you go to the grocery store, and the prices are relatively low, it's relatively stable, and you can afford that. So we've made up for not being able to get healthcare and live in houses that we bought and going to college. We've sort of made up for that on the back end by saying, well, at least consumer prices are good and you can get cheap shit from China, right? What Trump is doing is he has no plan to impact in a good way housing prices, healthcare prices, education prices, etc. So that's going to stay high. And now he's committing to absolutely skyrocketing the price of consumer goods. So then what you're looking at is inflation on all fronts. If you do a across-the-board 20% or 25% tariff, do you guys understand? That is effectively a tax on consumer goods for the bottom 95% of Americans of 20 to 25% or more, because some goods cross the border multiple times. And so Americans cannot afford that. But the problem even goes deeper, y'all. When you alienate all of your allies, when you put your middle finger up to them, when you isolate them, when you say, I'm punishing your ass, guys, the dollar is the world reserve currency. So in a sense, the whole world is dependent on America as the center of this complex economic trading mechanism, right? And so when you do that, you're begging them, hey guys, you can't trust us. We are not stable. We are not secure. We are not good to our word. And if we'll throw you under the bus on a whim, why the fuck would the rest of the world say, it's okay, we're still going to deal with America and we're still going to have the dollar as the world reserve currency? Trump acts on the assumption that it's impossible for the world to dump the dollar as the world reserve currency. He acts on that assumption that, like, we are the indispensable nation and no matter what, nobody can not deal with us. But if you piss these countries off enough and they come together like we're already seeing, then the days of the dollar as the world reserve currency are fucking numbered. And when that happens, it is a wrap for the American economy, and the American people will experience pain the likes of which people haven't experienced in this country since the Great Depression. Because at that point, the dollar becomes almost worthless, right? And then what Trump could do in a scenario like that is he would probably try to orchestrate some bailouts of the wealthy, or maybe even try to bail out the working class at that point because it would be so hair on fire bad. But now the confidence in the dollar is destroyed. So when you print money as the world reserve currency, the confidence is so strong in the dollar that it's okay. You can get away with very little inflation if you do that. But if you print money and you're no longer the world reserve currency and the confidence in the dollar has already been destroyed, then you're talking about inflation. Then you're talking about hyperinflation, right? You're talking about the U.S. being in a position like a third world country would be when they try to print their way out of an economic downturn where it doesn't work because there's no confidence in that currency. So stop and think about what his economic approach is. Across the board tariffs are just economic stupidity. It's an effective tax on the bottom 95% of Americans of 20 or 25%. He's doing that at the same time he wants to deregulate big business more and cut taxes on the rich more, right? So what you're talking about here is the American people getting squeezed every which direction. Housing too expensive, healthcare too expensive, education too expensive, now consumer goods too expensive. Jobs are going to be shed at a tremendous rate like we're already seeing. At the same time doing all of that, destroying the social safety net, which is the last line of defense to protect Americans from abject poverty and homelessness. If you destroy Social Security, destroy Medicare, destroy Medicaid, destroy the tiny, feeble semblance of a safety net that we have in this country, which is what Elon is doing and what Doge is doing, we are looking at a 5-alarm fire. We are looking at, I don't see how this country survives that. It becomes impossible to imagine that. So you think about this. Public sector layoffs, anywhere from 100,000 to 250,000 so far, all illegal, by the way. They want to do way more than that. Then you're going to have the private sector layoffs, which are already happening, and it's only going to increase. Then you're going to have the stock market crash on top of that, which is, in turn, they will fire even more people. Then you have the Trump robber baron policies of deregulation and tax cuts for the rich. Then you have, they squeeze you by raising taxes on the consumer goods on top of housing and education being unaffordable, and things of that nature, right? And then you have the dollar's position as the world reserve currency not being something that's long for this world anymore because we've pissed off too many of our allies. We're talking about invading allies, Greenland, stealing Panama, against their wishes completely. Canada, we're saying you're going to be the 51st state, and if you say you're not, we're going to change the border with you and change your water rights, and we're going to steal more of your territory. How can any nation put their middle finger up to their allies this aggressively, and turn on everybody this quickly? No, the reaction, Trump acts like everything is happening in a vacuum. Nobody can respond to us. We're the indispensable nation. He is so immensely fucking wrong. He has no idea. No idea. If you can get China and Japan to make a pact, I'm sorry, Canada's already making closer ties with the EU. They might even make closer ties with China. You are handing the next era over to China on a fucking silver platter. It's that meme of Xi Jinping going, do nothing, win. So it is an assault on every front against this country. I don't think you fully understand it. On every front, destroying the Constitution, destroying due process, illegally shipping people to an El Salvador slave labor camp, right? Cracking down on student protesters who are just against the Israeli genocide. You got all that going on. You got Trump's warmongering with 8 or 9 different countries. You got a trade policy which is absolutely psychopathic. Guys, targeted tariffs are not a bad thing. Hey, we'll tariff this foreign company that sells X, and then our domestic market of X will do better, right? And we'll incentivize people to buy American because the foreign one is more expensive. These are not targeted tariffs. These are across-the-board tariffs. That is just guaranteed to raise prices. And the other part of it is, Trump thinks, oh, if I just do tariffs, I'll bring an American manufacturing boom back. He doesn't understand that's not how it works. To get an American manufacturing boom, you need to do industrial policy. You basically need, yes, socialism, where you take tax money and you prop up the industries that you want to thrive in this country. The idea that, the wealthy will just, oh, I'm tariffed, so I guess I'll bring all of my factories back to the United States. That's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And he acts like he doesn't know that, which is just astonishing to me that he doesn't know that. So this is, the American economy is cooked. Honestly, the country itself looks like it's cooked. if he really follows through with all this stuff. And the other thing is, even if he doesn't, let's just say he doesn't, for argument's sake, he doesn't follow through with the worst of this stuff. If you are the leader of a country that's been an ally to the U.S., and now Trump is threatening to steal you, or, threatening tariffs or whatever, why would you sit around and wait to see whether or not he does it? No, of course, you're already going to get the ball rolling. You're already going to try to work with other countries. You're already going to look to China for more stability, for global trade and things of that nature, right? That's what you're going to do already. So even if he wouldn't follow through with all of the most extreme versions of this shit, it would still be a matter of time until the dollar is no longer the world reserve currency. And ladies and gentlemen, when that happens, when the dollar is no longer the world reserve currency, this country is going to look very, very, very different. Very different. You're talking massive protests. You're talking riots. You're talking about homelessness skyrocketing. You're talking about extreme poverty skyrocketing. You're talking about Hoovervilles. Remember Hoovervilles from back during the Great Depression? Look it up. That's what we'll be looking at here in the United States of America. Because you're going to have public sector layoffs as are already happening. Private sector layoffs as are already happening. The total destruction of the social safety net, our meager social safety net in this country, already happening. Mixed with massive tax increase on the working class. At the same time, you already can't afford healthcare and education and housing, right? And to further destroy, to say the one thing holding this country together, the low cost of consumer goods, to basically totally throw that out on a whim because Trump wants to get us back to 1890 style politics. It is just so misguided and so idiotic and so stupid, you can't help but think it's purposely orchestrated. And the logic of it is what? Every time there's a massive economic downturn, the wealthy come out the best. The top 1% come out the best. Look at the 2008 Great Recession. Look at the COVID downturn. Billionaire wealth skyrocketed in that time frame. Everybody else got fucked, but more concentration of wealth in the top 1%. That's what he wants. That's why he brags about the 1890s, which are the fucking Gilded Age. He doesn't care about the bottom 99%. He cares about the top 1%. For them, this would be good in the sense that income and wealth inequality are through the fucking roof, and they own everything, and everybody's got to rent from them, and everybody has to rely on them, right? Buckle up, man. Buckle up. I knew Trump's second term would be bad. I had no idea it would be this bad on every single front, every single issue. Constitutional rights, foreign policy, economic policy, you name it. Everything is just worse than the worst case scenario. And these stories right here, like the turning point, I think has already happened. I don't know if there's any turning the ship around. I really don't. You think about like the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand and how that led to the Great War, right? We probably already had that moment here. And the history books will look back and be like, oh yeah, it was that thing, right? The threatening to invade Canada, whatever the fuck it was. Or the Trump saying to Israel, like, yeah, you bomb Iran's nuclear facility, whatever it is. We are going to be completely isolated, alienated, and alone. And it's going to be us, Israel, and Saudi Arabia. But honestly, Saudi Arabia is smart enough. I'm sure they're making contingency plans with Russia or China or whatever. So they'll abandon us when the time comes, right? But this country is going to be completely isolated, completely economically stagnant, complete and utter crash, the destruction of the social safety net, the destruction of jobs. It's going to be something out of a dystopian sci-fi novel, and it brings me no joy in saying that. Hey y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.